When you move into a quiet suburban neighborhood, the last thing you expect is that your biggest nightmare will come wrapped in a pastel cardigan with a clipboard in hand. But that's exactly what we got when we met Karen. She wasn't just any Karen. She was the self-appointed queen of our local homeowners association, the ruler of lawn heights, mailbox colors, and apparently, our personal Wi-Fi too. It all started on a warm Saturday morning. I was sitting on our front porch, sipping coffee, enjoying the rare moment of peace before my teenage son, Ethan, came out with that look in his eyes. You know the one. When kids today have discovered something so shocking, they can't wait to spill it. Ethan's always been the tech whiz of the family. While other kids were busy gaming, he was tearing apart old laptops and figuring out how to build his own PC. So when he tells me something's up with our Wi-Fi, I know it's not just a buffering issue. Before I could ask what was wrong, Karen appeared, like she always does. She seemed to materialize from thin air, crossing our lawn without so much as a knock or a wave. She had that tight smile that never reached her eyes. In her hands, the dreaded clipboard. "Good morning," she chirped, pretending she hadn't just trampled my rose bushes. "I just need to remind you about the HOA meeting this evening. And by the way," she leaned closer, lowering her voice like she was sharing a secret, "the Wi-Fi's been a little spotty lately. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" I blinked. "Our Wi-Fi? Since when was our Wi-Fi part of the HOA perks?" Ethan shot me a look, half amused, half annoyed. Karen's fake smile widened, but I could see it. She was nervous. Something told me she'd been getting a little too comfortable freeloading on our internet. And if Ethan was right, she was in for a very rude awakening. Karen moved into the neighborhood about 5 years ago, and from the moment she unpacked her first box, she decided she was going to improve everything. At first, we thought she was just enthusiastic, a new neighbor wanting to keep things tidy. We were wrong. It didn't take long for her to transform our laid-back block into her own personal fiefdom. If your grass grew half an inch too long, expect a note taped to your door. Forget to bring in your trash cans by 6 a.m. the next morning. She'd snap a photo and file an official complaint that we tried to stay on her good side at first. We really did. We joined the neighborhood barbecues, signed up for her endless HOA newsletters, and pretended to care about the color of our mailbox post. But over time, her constant meddling wore everyone down. It wasn't enough for her to enforce the actual HOA rules. She liked making up new ones, and somehow, no one wanted to challenge her. I remember one time Ethan accidentally left his bike on the front lawn overnight. The next morning, Karen knocked at dawn with a tape measure and a warning about improper outdoor storage. When my husband tried to reason with her, she threatened a fine. That's just who she was. Tiny power. Trips, day in and day out. Behind closed doors, the neighborhood called her HOA Karen. It became a running joke. Some of the other parents even made memes about her. My favorite was her face photoshopped onto a medieval queen sitting on a throne made of unpaid HOA dues. But as much as we laughed, we all knew she could make life miserable if you crossed her. So most people just went along with her rules. If she wanted something done, it got done, just to avoid the drama. But in our house, things were starting to shift. See, Ethan didn't like bullies. And the older he got, the more he realized Karen was exactly that, a grown-up playground. Bully with a title and a clipboard that he started to notice things the adults didn't. Like how Karen's porch lights always flickered at the same time our router would act up. Or how her smug grin would appear when someone complained about slow internet at the block party. He quietly told me he suspected she'd figured out our Wi-Fi password. I laughed it off. Surely not. But deep down, I knew Ethan was rarely wrong. When it came to tech.so, we carried on, watering our lawn to regulation length, storing our bins on time, nodding politely whenever Karen stopped by with her latest reminder. But in the background, Ethan was paying attention. He kept logs, checked the router, and taught himself more than I'll ever understand about IP addresses and bandwidth. He was waiting for the perfect moment to catch her red-handed. That moment came on a random Thursday night. I was watching TV when Ethan burst into the living room, laptop in hand, a grin plastered on his face. "Mom, you need to see this," he said, spinning the screen toward me. On it was a list of connected devices. More than we owned, that was for sure. A couple of phones, our smart TV, Ethan's computer, and something labeled Karen's iPhone. I stared at it, then at him. "Are you sure?" I asked. He nodded, barely containing his excitement. He'd been monitoring the traffic for weeks. He showed me how Karen's devices would pop up like clockwork, especially when she sat out on her porch or when she hosted her so-called HOA meetings that were basically gossip sessions with free internet. I asked him what we should do. Ethan cracked his knuckles dramatically, such a teenager, and said, "Simple. I'm changing the password tonight." The next morning, the storm hit. I was pruning my roses when I heard it. Karen's voice, shrill and echoing across the yard. She was standing at the edge of our driveway, arms crossed, her ever-present clipboard clutched like a weapon. "Excuse me," she barked when she saw me. "I think there's something wrong with your internet. I can't seem to connect." I bit my tongue to keep from laughing. I told her I'd look into it. She wasn't satisfied. She demanded to know if we'd changed the password. I shrugged innocently. Ethan poked his head out the door, pretending to be surprised by the commotion. "Well, maybe someone was using it without permission," he said, his voice dripping. With teenage sarcasm, Karen's eyes narrowed. She launched into a tirade about how the HOA needed reliable Wi-Fi for community updates and security purposes. Ethan almost snorted at that one. Our neighborhood's security was her peeking through blinds, nothing more. She stomped off that day, but we knew this wasn't over. Karen wasn't the type to let anything go, especially when it involved her precious perks. Ethan just leaned over and whispered, "This is going to be fun." I believed him. For the next few days, Karen tried everything. First, she came back pretending to be nice. She brought over stale cookies and asked if we could share the new password for the good of the neighborhood. We politely declined. She tried guilt-tripping Ethan directly, telling him he was being selfish, that the other kids needed the Wi-Fi too. Ethan just smiled sweetly and said they should get their own plan. When the nice act didn't work, Karen switched tactics. She threatened fines. She claimed there was an obscure HOA bylaw that said homeowners must maintain neighborhood connectivity. Ethan found the actual HOA manual online. No such rule existed. He even printed the page and taped it to our door with a sticky note that said, "Nice try, Karen." She didn't take that well. The next day, we woke up to a notice taped to our mailbox, some bogus violation about the unsightly state of our lawn. It looked perfectly fine. A couple of our neighbors, tired of her antics, came over to reassure us they'd back us up if she tried to push it further, but Karen wasn't done. She went door to door, telling everyone that we were hoarding the neighborhood Wi-Fi and that we were selfish, anti-community. Some folks bought it at first. I got a few awkward looks at the grocery store. One neighbor even asked if we'd reconsider sharing the password just to keep the peace. Ethan overheard and muttered, "That's not how any of this works." He was right. Karen wasn't after peace. She was after control. And now that she didn't have it, she was unraveling. She even tried to rally the HOA board, but they were too busy dealing with real issues, like the pothole on Main Street she'd ignored for months because she was too busy snooping on people's Wi-Fi. Then Ethan found something interesting. One evening, he pulled me aside. "Mom, I think Karen's doing more than just mooching free internet," he said. He showed me weird spikes in data usage at odd hours. He explained it like this. "It's like she's using it for something she doesn't want anyone to know about." We were intrigued. What could she possibly be doing? Streaming late-night reality TV marathons? Ethan shook his head. "This is different. Trust me, I'm going to dig deeper." So while Karen waged her petty war outside, writing fake violations, gossiping with the same 3 neighbors who still liked her, Ethan went full detective mode inside. Every night after homework, he'd pore over the router logs, cross-checking times, devices, and IP addresses. He was determined to get to the bottom of it. One night, as I was tucking him in, he said, "She messed with the wrong nerd, Mom." I laughed. He wasn't wrong. Little did Karen know, her entitled freeloading was about to expose something much bigger, and she wouldn't be able to clip her way out of this one. A few days later, Ethan ran into the kitchen, waving his laptop like it was a treasure map. "I found it," he practically shouted. He pulled me over and pointed at lines of code and numbers I couldn't make sense of. He translated. Karen hadn't just been stealing Wi-Fi. She'd been using it to hide what she was doing online. Apparently, she was running some sort of shady resale operation from her house, selling overpriced knockoff designer goods through fake listings. Ethan showed me the sites she'd been logging into. He'd tracked the traffic patterns, matching the times with when our bandwidth spiked. He even found a few online reviews complaining about fake bags and shoes that never arrived that we were floored. Karen, the same woman who fined people for plastic flamingos in their yard, was committing fraud, using our internet to cover her tracks. Ethan was calm but determined. He explained that by routing it through our Wi-Fi, she thought it would hide her real IP address. And to be fair, it probably worked, until my kid decided to play junior cyber detective that we knew we had to be careful. We printed out the logs, screenshots, and a list of suspicious sites she'd visited. Ethan insisted we keep backups on a USB drive in the cloud, just in case Karen somehow got wind of what we'd found. That night, we sat in the living room, the three of us, me, my husband, and Ethan, going over what to do next. Part of me wanted to knock on Karen's door and throw the evidence in her smug face. But Ethan, ever the strategist, suggested we handle it smart. He found the HOA's ethics clause. Yes, they actually had one. Any board member found guilty of illegal or unethical behavior that harms the reputation of the HOA could be removed immediately. We drafted a neat little packet, complete with all the evidence, and anonymously slipped it into the HOA board president's mailbox. We figured if Karen wanted to play HOA queen, she'd have to answer to her own rules. A few days passed. Karen was quiet for once, too quiet. She must have felt the walls closing in. She stopped coming by with her clipboard, stopped patrolling the sidewalks for imaginary violations. I spotted her peeking through her blinds one morning as Ethan walked to the bus stop. He shot her a little wave. She didn't wave back. When the next HOA meeting rolled around, we didn't even have to attend. Word spread fast. Karen showed up, ready to wag her finger at everyone about their trash bins and lawn edges. But the board had other plans. Neighbors later told us how the president calmly pulled out the packet of evidence and asked Karen to explain herself. She tried to deny it at first. Of course, she always did. But there were logs, screenshots, and reviews from angry buyers. There was no wiggle room left for her excuses. She had a meltdown right there in the community center. She called everyone traitors, screamed that we were all out to get her. But this time, nobody backed her up. People were tired of her rules, her spying, her hypocrisy. The board voted to remove her from her HOA post on the spot. We watched from our porch. That night, as Karen packed up boxes of her HOA files into her car. No more clipboard patrols, no more fake fines. And our Wi-Fi? Secure and peaceful at last. Ethan sat next to me, a smug grin on his face. Told you she messed with the wrong nerd. He said that. I just laughed and ruffled his hair. He was right. In the end, all it took was a changed Wi-Fi password and a tech-savvy kid with zero tolerance for bullies to bring down the queen of the HOA. And you better believe, in our house, the router password changes regularly, just in case.